Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Live by Heart Today. Show 58. Take up your cross. We live and we learn. It's all we can do to get from a breakdown to a breakthrough. Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by
Learn to play jazz piano like a pro, by a pro, with Jazz Piano Pro Essentials at jazzpianopro.com.
And wearehistorically.com, conscious human apparel. It's time for the next episode of Live by Heart
Today.
Hello, welcome to the Live by Heart Today, show number 58. This is a show designed to help you navigate change, uncertainty, and the new world we found ourselves in. We'll talk a little bit about science, a little bit about how our body works, a little bit about intuition, and we'll talk a lot about transformation. I'm Dawn Spiegelberg, posture therapist, coherence coach, and medical intuitive. We're focusing on rebirth. Today's theme is Take Up Your Cross. With me for today's Heart to Heart is my co-host, Wendy R. Wolf, professional transformation facilitator.
Thanks, Dawn. This conversation builds on our last one. It's a continuation, really, of last week's show, as far as I'm concerned, which is Death is the Way, rah, rah. So if anyone hasn't seen it, I encourage you to, but you can just follow along as we go now. So taking up our cross, there's so many things I want to say about this, but the first thing I want to say is the whole, there's a tendency I've noticed, I call it like we learn it in mother school, but many of us learn it other places, that there's this thing I know it's not kind, I call it the happy little martyr. I've done it, a lot of people I know have done it, where we think we're laying down our lives. We think that we're serving, but what we're actually doing is avoiding death. We're avoiding our own growth, and we're trying to get our needs met through someone else.
Poor me.
Poor me. It's a victim stance. And so it's not the only thing we're going to talk about today, but it's the first thing I think about with the take up our cross. It doesn't mean carry our cross around for our whole life. It means take it up, put it up, get it on it, die, be willing to die. And Jesus did that pretty fast, and so can we. It's the dragging around the cross and being miserable and unfortunately having other people be miserable that is an issue. So what are you noticing, Dawn?
I'm reminded, you said mother school, and you are not wrong about that. I'm not happy about having learned that. Being a woman and being told this is the way it needs to be. I've told this story before. There was one Saturday morning when there were only 2 eggs left in the carton, and we always made 2 egg omelets. And my response at having seen only 2 eggs left was, "Oh, I don't get any breakfast." Where did that come from? How is that even possible? There were 2 eggs and
2 people.
2 people. 1 egg per person is a perfect thing. Or just go to the store and get more. So there were so many other options. And the question is, where did I learn that I wasn't deserving, that there wasn't enough for me? And I was not young when I had that realization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're probably clear where you learned it.
Yeah, many places. So I learned it at home, and it was reinforced at church.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think today we're going to get maybe a little lordy, but a little into the religion and Christianity a little bit more than usual, but I think it's very useful.
Yeah, the pictures are appropriate to the conversation. You know, the word martyr, you know, the picture of a martyr is very clear. And I think it's worth talking about, because when death is the way and we avoid it, then you end up being the happy little martyr, like you said.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to be around someone like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get the opposite of what I'm meaning to get. I mean to serve people, and I mean to align with my source and love. But that's not the fruit that comes out of it when done through the martyr pictures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating to me how strong the ego becomes in the martyr picture, in the martyr scenario. Another biblical reference was often the priests back in Jesus' day would talk about keeping the law, and one of the laws they kept was fasting. So they'd walk around holding their stomach and grimacing their faces because they were so hungry, but they were fasting because they were so holy. And it's a beautiful picture and almost comical from this perspective, comical, but when you're in it, when you're saying, "Oh, I'm so hungry because I'm so spiritual and I'm fasting today," it's it's it seems so obvious, you know? It's not obvious to me when I'm saying it, but it's obvious when I see other people. Oh,
Yeah.
look at me. My life is so difficult. And really it negates the rest of us. It really negates the journey, the individual journey. And I'll say one thing also. I was introduced to a concept recently, and I'd never heard of it before, and it was skinny privilege. And someone didn't use the term toward me or at me, but they used the term, and I spent some time really thinking about it. And when someone says, you know, skinny privilege, and I hear it, um, they don't really know the journey I've been through, my own journey with food, and am I the kind of body type that gains weight or loses weight, you know, they don't know what that is. And so I saw myself from a different perspective, right? I put myself in the eyes of the person who used the term skinny privileged, and really it was fascinating, a very difficult place to be, and this person is suffering.
Yeah.
So we're talking about real life. Taking up your cross is a real life situation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the taking up our cross, I mean, as I've said, my picture is I take it to where it needs to go. I put it up, I get on it, and then I say, you know, unto you I give my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Unto you I release my spirit. And then I can't actually do the dying. And that's so frustrating. And I've talked about this before, how I use the I'm letting go, help thou my letting go, you know, help me die, because like it gets frustrating because I become willing, but there's parts of me that aren't willing still.
Yes.
Right? Those unconscious privileges, those unconscious things that I'm still holding on to the past, but I don't even know it. And so that's the part where it gets very fine, and I just keep having to let go, let go, let go. But that's how the job gets done. Bodies don't want to die, and egos don't want to die. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I want to speak to this just for a minute because I'm reminded of my own father's death. He died about 8 years ago, and he had a pacemaker. And so the family is around his bedside, and I was staying with my mother at the time. And we were just waiting for the moment for him to pass. We knew it was going to happen. And then I noticed occasionally there would be this tension. And I thought, well, what would be causing, this kind of tension? And I realized, oh, he's got a pacemaker, which means anytime he's attempting to release and die, the pacemaker is turning on so that his heart doesn't stop.
Wow.
So something that was helping him stay alive was now an impediment to his death.
Yes.
And it causes me to think about the things that I have that at one point I adopted or I accepted to help me, and that may today no longer serve me. That's my story.
That's a wonderful example. Wonderful. And a lot of what we call that in my tradition is machines. Our soul, that they were designed to help serve us and our world, and then the next thing you turn around and they're in the way. Because life changes, the direction of the wind changes. It's that simple. That's a really good information. Thanks, Dawn. Yeah. And I do want to contextualize. We were talking about last time death is the way, and we're continuing that conversation. But I just want to say, the whole idea here is that unless a seed falls to the ground and dies, it won't produce good fruit.
Yeah.
That's the whole picture. So we want to be like our full expressed self, and we want to produce good fruit, and the way is death. And that's why we're talking about this.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I hadn't spent time thinking about the fact that the fruit, when it's a seed, is on the tree, and it's being cared for, and it's growing because of the tree. And then it must leave I'll call it the comfort of the tree. It must fall.
Yes.
So it must be separated from that which grew it. So there's an independence. There is a longing that we have to return back to the support and the health and the safety of the tree. But we must fall.
Yes.
And we must die in order to become our own. So
yeah,
that's a different vision.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And before we started, you were talking today about that going into the ground. It's the same as being in the womb. We must go to the darkness, and that's where the magic happens. So I don't know if you want to say more about that.
Well, we've talked about the caterpillar cocooning to become a butterfly, and it is dark, and it is a mush. And that darkness, I believe, allows us to understand and receive the light differently. And this goes back to our show about contrasts, dancing the opposites. How can we dance the opposites? And I've been asking myself the question lately, if something in life is getting my attention, if something is calling for me to die, to take up the cross and die, I'd like to embrace it sooner. You were talking about shortening the period of suffering. And yeah, I'm all for that. Let's do it, get it done, and get to the other side. And you throw your hat over the fence so that you go get it. And the way over the fence may not be an easy one.
Oh.
And I think because we are so accustomed to comfort, we're so accustomed to available food. We haven't been through any famines.
I know.
Gas price goes up, but we still have gas.
Yeah.
And we're not accustomed to dying. We're not accustomed to going without.
Mm.
So being a martyr is kind of easy. It's an easy path because that's what we're accustomed to. We're not accustomed to dying.
Yeah. Yeah. And it reminds me of something I used to reference all the time when I was younger. It's if we don't hear what life is saying to us, it will speak in louder blows.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm not saying that it's personal, and I'm not saying that like God is out to get me or anything. I'm just saying that this is what life is. It's a constant, we talked about this last time, I think. It's a constant evolution. It's a constant drawing to new. Life is
Yes.
change. And
Yeah.
so like if I'm fighting that, it's kind of like how we are with our shorelines, bless us. It's like, I love the shorelines. I love the beach. I very happily live at the edge of the beach, but like the fact is that shorelines naturally move. And so there's this constant fighting and putting up, seawalls, and this bringing in more sand, like which this incessant, like holding against the natural flow. And eventually that does get overcome. So if the waters are rising, so even if they're not, as they have been, like the shorelines are always moving. And so it's not personal necessarily, but if I'm not paying attention to which way the water and the flow is going, I'm going to end up under the sand.
Mm-hmm.
But if I pay attention and I dance with that, then it's not so miserable.
Saying yes to life.
Yes to life.
Did you want to say something about yes to life?
Oh, I just associate that with one of my spiritual friends, an ascended master that's lost to history, named Lamar, and he's all about healing and growth and change and learning and transformation. Like that's his gig. And the big thing is yes to life. That's all yes to life. I just say yes to the beautiful life, because it is change and it is learning and it is growth and it is transformation, which, by the way, are, the way is death, but still it's life.
Thich Nhat Hanh talks about say yes with every step. And yeah, we're talking about death is the way. But in light of saying yes with every step, we're leaving behind where we just were.
Yes.
We're willing to move in a new direction, in a different direction. And that is taking up the cross very clearly for me. And what I think is beautiful that a lot of us don't realize is that when we walk, in order to pick up one foot, we must balance on the other foot. And that's a big deal, especially when people begin to lose their balance. And I see that as taking up the cross. So we all have examples of how it's possible to age. And if you're willing to take up the cross now to attend to your movement, attend to your health, you can create a different aging story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a dying every day. That's a set aside time for me to do my exercises, for me to reset and reprogram my body. Because if I don't, there is an outcome. And it's not an outcome that I want for myself.
Yes.
And you can't cram for it.
No.
You can't just decide, oh, I'm going to lift weights today and make up for the whole past year.
Right. Right. Yeah. And so we've talked about this, how like, continuing to invest on the inside, but also on in our everyday life, in our strength and our endurance, our balance, our flexibility. It really, really profits.
Mm-hmm.
And then also on the other side is the stuff that, we can help, but things are changing. I had my friends visit. We've been friends for 40 years. And I was talking to them about, because like I'm just feeling like menopause. results are really hitting lately. It feels like to me lately in the last year or whatever, just my skin is just not what it used to be. I'm sorry. It's just not. And just not. And it's like, it helps me to talk to other people who are going through the same thing. Instead of, oh, I know, and this cream and that thing, and let's get surgery. It's, for me, it's helpful to just allow, it's helpful for me to be with people who model, yeah, that's what happens. It's okay. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't have to fight it till I'm 101 and look like when I was 20. It really helps me. And that's the modeling of, yeah, we're dying a little each day, and that's okay. It's the game. It's okay. And we can be strong, and we can be powerful, and we can own our wisdom, and we can allow that, the ravages of time are happening. And hooray, because we're still here.
We're still here.
And it's not the most important thing. My skin is not the most important thing. I have it. Hooray.
And being grateful for it doing its job.
Yes, it's still doing its job.
In any state, right, whether it's young skin or not so young skin.
But it's a very hard process for everyone, I think. But I think especially women in our culture, maybe in general.
Perhaps, but this is exactly what we're talking about when we're changing identity.
Yes.
Can we change the identity that we hold of ourselves of being a particular age or looking a particular way and continue moving forward? Because we've seen people who still want to look young. There was a recent image of Demi Moore who had her face redone. And it doesn't look like Demi Moore anymore. They had to tell me this is Demi Moore because I didn't know who it was.
Yeah.
And she's trying to look younger. And those days are past.
Yes.
Those days are past.
She was extraordinarily beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It must be really hard. And especially when you're in the public eye, I think it's just really hard.
Mm-hmm.
But can we talk about taking up your cross? Can I be willing to be like, this is how it is today, and I'm going to go forward with this face.
Mm-hmm. And this is who I am today. This is not who I was yesterday. And what's interesting is she doesn't look like she used to. So if she's trying to recapture the past, that's not working. Right? And she doesn't look like her. So she's not capturing the present either.
Yeah. It's very hard.
It
my
is.
heart goes out to her. And the more we identify with the body and a certain way we have been or used to be, it makes it that much harder. And that's why this whole being willing to die is so helpful.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all right, like you said, this is how I was, this is how I am. Can I let go and be with it? It's hard. And
very hard.
And there's really great fruit, because for me, it's just like, all right, well, get over it and just come do the show, get over it and put my energy and attention where it matters.
Yeah.
And make my impact how I can, regardless, because it would be so easy to just get hooked on, well, I don't look a certain way, so I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as women, I think. Men have different pictures. But
you make a beautiful statement, because when we focus on where our contribution is, our gift is not to always look 20. Yeah. Our gift is to have this Live by Heart Today show and give hope and talk about taking up our cross and taking up our skin that's changing at this age, mm-hmm. and still living a full and abundant life.
Yes.
With that, let's take a short break.
Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Hello, I'm Dawn Spiegelberg, a heart coherence coach. How do we create happiness in our own life when it seems like there's nothing to be happy about? When the world is crumbling around us, what do we do? What do you do? How can you be happy? How can you connect with what's most important? If you need a happiness adjustment, if you want to learn how to be grateful at any time in your life, contact me today so you can experience heart coherence.
For me, the thing that I care about is that you hear what's possible for you, that it's possible to change. It's possible to live the life that you want to be living. What I offer are inner tools to help make the changes that have been really hard to make, the impossible changes. You know how they say, just turn on a dime? Most people can't do that. Can't turn on a dime, but I have tools that can help. So please be in touch. I'd love to work with you one-on-one if you have something really deep, really gnarly that you want to handle. We can work one-on-one, or just sign up for my newsletter and you'll get a free workshop. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I instruct an online video course that teaches anyone how to play jazz piano like a pro with my proven step-by-step system that makes it simple to learn. Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com and download my free quick start guide.
Welcome back to the Live by Heart Today show. We're talking about taking up your cross and the happy little martyr and our skin changing and aging. And when he just mentioned one thing, it's a good day to die. I don't remember where that's from. Is it from a movie or something?
Star Trek.
Star Trek. It's a good day to die.
Culture. And I think it's so important. I mean, yeah, it's relevant here, but it's so helpful to have that male vibration that, like, I'm going to face this soul journey, this life journey, not just with the feminine receptivity, but with the masculine action. You know, I'm gonna embrace this day. I'm gonna go for what's happening. I'm gonna, you know, go in the direction of my dreams. And if there's failure, if there's breaking, if I'm dying, today's a good day to die. But I'm not gonna let that stop me. I'm not gonna let that stop me. I could die. I mean, physically, as well as emotionally. Like, there's more important things, just like there's more important things than if my skin is perfect, to do my thing, to do my impact in the world. There's more important things than if I die doing it.
You know, this reminds me, I don't know where I heard it from, but there's a story of a guy who was trying to avoid death. And he had plans to go to a party. Do you know that one?
Go ahead.
So he was told he was going to die on a particular night, and he had plans to go to a friend's party. So he's like, "Oh, I'm not going to go to that party, right? Because I don't want to meet death at that party." So he went to another place across town. Anyway, he I guess he shows up at the party and he sees death and he leaves. And then Death shows up across town and he said, "Wait, how did you know I was over here?" And Death said, "Oh, I was at that party to take John, not you. I was supposed to meet you across town." and and so it's kind of a surprise, right? Because we can't avoid death. Death is going to happen. We can't avoid taking up our cross because it's there, whether we are willing to take it up or not. And we can't change our skin. Eventually, we will age and get older.
Yeah.
So can we end the suffering sooner? Which is what you were saying. Can I embrace the gray hairs that are coming in now instead of pulling them all out?
Oh my gosh.
You know, there are some people, you know, their eyebrows start to get gray and they pull them all out and then they don't have eyebrows left. And then they don't know what to do.
Right.
Different problem.
It's a funny little life that we have.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. And and there's as far as the physical death, too, and how we just never know where it's coming. And it is coming. It is coming. It is coming. And for me, it continues to add so much poignancy and so much sublime gifts to the life now. Because if life went on forever, I wouldn't be embracing it like I am. If my partner is going to be here forever, I wouldn't embrace him like I do now. If the summer was going to last forever, oh, I might as well just work today. It'll be sunny tomorrow. Like it forces me to recognize the gift of now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the gift of love and the gift of life and the gift of the people we care about and the things that we care about. Like, it's so powerful. It's a gift. Death is a gift.
It heightens our gratitude for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So today is a good day to die.
And that's accepting. That there's a big step in accepting that concept. That because when we know we're going to die, but we don't actually know. We don't live it. We expect tomorrow's going to happen. We make appointments 6 months into the future. But when you begin a day with that idea that today you could die, boy, your food tastes a lot better. Your relationships, you don't take them for granted.
Yeah. Yeah. It's truly a gift to actively, consciously dance with this. Carlos Castaneda, his books, Don Juan says that to live with death on our left shoulder as an advisor. It really does shift not just how I experience the world and enjoy the world, but the choices that I make. Mm-hmm. When I recognize, from the advisor, death on my left shoulder, it's a very, very useful, what's it called, practice, I think.
And having death as an advisor means that there's a relationship that you're developing. And so it's not so much a mystery. It's not something you're avoiding. It's not something that is so fear-inducing.
Yeah. We're just walking into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, in my work, I'm very incessantly talking about this because I'm working with people, and maybe you talk about it too. I'm working with people who are making choices about am I willing to change? Am I willing to grow? Am I willing to step into my true impact? Right? Am I willing? And so the contextualization of that conversation is, what are we going to do with the short life that we have? Everything we love, we and everyone we love, everything we love is passing away. It just is. So in the face of that, what do we choose?
That's a really good statement. In remembering that you have a choice. And when I'm playing the happy little martyr, I don't believe I have a choice. No. Oh, look how heavy my cross is. Look at mine is so much bigger than yours, and this is so difficult for me to bear.
Yes. And it is. I really want to validate it. It really is. But as we have talked about today, there are choices. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to stay like that. I mean, I have tremendous compassion. I mean, you've been there. I've been there. I lived in victim conscious most of my life. It sucks. Mm-hmm. And it can change no matter, I had good reasons for it.
Right? Good reasons for it. And I'd like to mention that it's interesting that the biblical context for taking up the cross has a step before that. And this might help our listeners, our people watching, to really understand and move through it. And Christ said, first deny. deny yourself. So there's something we're letting go before we're taking up the cross. And I believe that's an important step. So you were talking about skin and our skin changing and denying the youth. We're not young anymore. We're not in our 20s anyway.
Yeah.
And being okay with not being in your 20s is denying that identity. We created an identity that we were in our 20s for 10 years. So that's a long time to establish an identity. And I think that's beneficial that we turn 30, and then beneficial we spend 10 years in our 30s and it moves on.
Mm-hmm.
So many things to learn with each change of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So this whole Jesus thing, because it's the crux of it. I feel like he shows us in our culture, he's the icon of how to die. And it's misery and it's horror. It's ugly and it's very disturbing. It's not pretty. And he shows us what it looks like, and he shows what the fruit is. There's a death, and then resurrection comes. It does. And he shows us also it doesn't have to go on forever, as we've said a couple times today. Like he just did, he died in like a third of the time people usually did on the cross. Like, let's go. Let's go. We don't have to suffer. We don't have to drag the cross around. We don't have to, climb on it and just suffer. We can say, I let go. Help me let go. So, less suffering and more time for fruit. And I'm speaking from my experience. I've spent like literally decades in like under the wheel in my adult life, like a lot of time. And it doesn't have to be so hard. It doesn't have to take so long. I think I said that in the last time too.
That's a beautiful image. And while we're discussing Christ, I'd like to make one mention of what happened afterward. And he was raised again spiritually, but with a spiritual body. And something that I realized recently that I hadn't thought about before, and that was he showed himself to the disciples and they recognized who he was because of the injuries. So his spiritual body still had some semblance of what he had gone through. That's interesting to me. He said to, was it doubting Thomas? Look at my hands. I'm Christ, look. And then he believed. And that's fascinating to me.
Yeah. Like the soul, the incarnational soul part of him, we carry all of it, right? We carry all of it, everything. And it's all transformed into beauty.
Right. Thank you.
Which brings me just to the last thing on my list I want to talk about today, which is another ascended master that I love, who is lost to history as well, Jajina. Her big thing is she wears this crown of natural things like flowers and plants and stuff. And her tendency is to point to it and say, if you knew the malleability of matter, your world would change. So like there's how the world changes, how malleable everything is, the weather, everything's like the weather. Just wait, it changes. That's not just annoying. It can be annoying, right?
Right.
This I don't like to change. It's annoying. But so it's this incredible gift. Everything is so malleable. Our relationships, our bodies, our lives, our work, everything's so malleable, more than we can imagine. And that's the good news, because when we really recognize that, it encourages me to dive into the death and come back to the resurrection. It's like, when I recognize how it, like, just like we were talking about with my teacher, like, oh my gosh, she can have a great life. Wait, I can too. Am I willing to allow the malleability and be a different person with a different identity and a different life? It's very exciting. And then my life changes, my world changes. So I just wanted to share that, because that's the good news. That's what all this is for, the resurrection.
Beautiful. That's so hopeful. Thank you for that last encouraging word.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone who's watching today. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what you think about taking up your cross. And if our conversation spoke to you, please tell us what's on your heart. Leave us a comment. And for more information about how you can live by heart, please go to livebyhearttoday.com. Like and follow this page and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our upcoming programs. We're here every week on Thursdays at 4:44 Pacific. From our heart to yours, we're creating a better tomorrow because we live by heart today.
And that concludes this portion of
Live by Heart Today!
Thank you for watching. View more episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Shop online at wearehistorically.com. Conscious Human Apparel.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I'll teach you everything you need to know about playing jazz piano like a pro with my 12-week online video course and downloadable guidebook, Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com.
Thank you for joining us. Have a happy always.
This is powerful stuff. People are going through it and they need hope.
Yes, they're going through it. Yeah. And so, it was a little more religious than we usually do, but it's very good leveraging, I think.
I don't see that it was religious. I think we were just drawing on a religious context, but we weren't telling everyone to convert to something. Right?
Good.
That's the difference for me.
Good. It's certainly, the social context we live in.
Yes.
It's a culture. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And there are great examples, Christ did die, and most people know that. And he did so willingly. That's an important piece.
Yeah.
Even if you think it's a story.
Right.
And it didn't actually happen. It still is beneficial. It still has that heroic formula that I too can face the death that's coming in my life. I too can accept it and then suffer a shorter period of time instead of resisting it and suffering longer.
Mm-hmm. Gorgeous, beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.